Next up, a passive voice. Our first shot at it. The key here, stylistic variation in your writing. All right, what's next?
I think we should talk about the passive voice.
Okay. Never use the passive voice. I think that's the lesson, is it not?
You are totally wrong, as you've been many times in your life. But and Carol was only wrong once.
Well, yeah, pretty much.
When she said yes. But anyway, so this is a long story, but it bears repeating, and I've repeated it many times as an illustration about the passive voice. So in 1978, I was in Knoxville, Tennessee, I think, or maybe Nashville. No, I think it was Knoxville.
Knoxville.
National Council of Teachers of English annual meeting. And they had the keynote speaker was, I can't remember his name. It says like Jeffrey Nunberg or something like that, but he was a very famous linguist. I think he was actually the first chief lexicographer for the American Heritage, the first volume, the first edition, rather. I don't know, but
serious honcho, major linguist, big deal.
And so he was going to talk about the passive voice. That was going to be his keynote lecture. And so after attending all the various, minor meetings, I went to the major address. About 500 linguists, teachers of English there, and I always like to get into the real heart of the meeting. So I got there early, and I sat in the front row. And I was 6'6", very tall, and for the time. And anyway,
it's tall now. 6'6" is big.
Yeah, well, I'm only 6'3.5" now. I've shrunk. But anyway, so I got there. I was in the front row, and there was a vast auditorium, say 500 or 600 people at least. And the linguist came to the podium, and he was shuffling his paper because, like most academic speeches are read.
Yeah. Well, I think shuffling paper is part of the gig, right? You need to shuffle to
makes
seriousness.
Makes you feel comfortable.
Important.
Makes you feel important. And so anyway, he shuffles paper, and then he tapped the microphone, or maybe he had a lavalier mic, I don't know. But anyway, he said, ladies and gentlemen, before I begin my lecture today about the passive voice, I want to make a bold statement. And I'm sitting in front of the front row, tall person, in front of about 500 people.
And you're junior. This is an important point. You're not like the senior dude at this point.
No, I'd only had my PhD for like 2 years. And so he said, people, I think the passive voice should never be used, which is itself a use of the passive voice. Well, I thought it was deliberate. So I went, ha, 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 ha. Loudly.
Your voice echoing through the auditorium.
Echoing, because no one else said a word. and then everybody scowled at me. He looked down, he scowled at me, and I started shrinking in my chair. I very rarely have getting embarrassed in my life. But remember, I was just at the start of my career. And and no one else had picked it up that he had used. I thought he was being funny.
That he used the passive voice. It's hard for you to shrink when you're 6'6", too far, too. You're not going to shrink too well.
I know. Well, you fall on the floor. But anyway,
if you weren't in the front row, you could have plunged and just laid down underneath the row in front of you. But
someone would have stepped on me. But anyway,
right.
So I'm laughing like crazy, and no one else is laughing, and he's scowling at me. So I realized that he had used the passive voice, not as a jocular manner, but just because he didn't really realize what the passive voice was. So
let's talk about it. And it's a great story, because I think we use the passive voice a lot when we're, especially speaking, but even writing, you don't realize it.
Well, I do it for two reasons. One is for sentence or stylistic variation. Like if I had a bunch of I'll just throw these off. They may not make sense. I hit the dog. I sing a song. I sang a song. I play the piano. The piano was played. So basically, what you're doing is you have this boring I in the active voice. Well, why not change the order around occasionally? It'd be just as boring if you had every sentence in the active, the passive voice. So in saying I hit the tree, just say the tree was hit, or I sing a song. If I said present tense, it's the present indicative statement of fact. I sing a song. Well, the passive voice would be a song is sung.
So stylistic variation, just to mix it up in your writing, just like you'd want to use if you're writing and you're serious about it and it matters and it's worth taking the time to do the editing required here, because you're not going to have amazing stylistic variation on your first draft ever. Most likely, you may get lucky.
For sure, absolutely, for sure.
But it's to mix up. It's just like mixing up sentence length. You can mix up active and passive. And I mean, I still have a strong preference for the active voice. As a journalist.
I don't. I think there's, to me, you can argue. I hit the tree. Okay, subject verb object versus passive voice. The tree was hit.
Yeah.
The tree is hit because you can't tell. But the point is, what is the difference? Versus I hit the tree and the tree was hit.
Yeah, there's not in that case.
Is, we all know that something was hit, the tree. So whether you say I hit the tree or the tree was hit, it doesn't make any difference. They're still communicating the same meaning, either in the active or the passive voice.
Thanks for watching. If you have questions or comments, please let us know in the comments.